As a woodworker for many years, I never really saw the appeal of a 3D printer. Most of the time I would see people printing out these cheap looking little gadgets, fidget toys, figurines, stuff like that. I didn't make any connection in my mind between woodworking and 3D printing. That changed a little earlier this year when my brother showed me, ironically, not anything woodworking related, but these little miniature figures, and I realized just how precise and detailed a 3D printer could be at creating shapes that I wouldn't be able to make with wood. But don't get me wrong, this is not a need. There are other foundational tools for the shop that should come first. The big six, things like the planer, jointer, table saw, bandsaw, router, drill press, those kind of things, a better dust collector. All of those are going to do more for woodworking than the 3D printer. But if you're happy with your current setup in terms of the big tools, and you're looking for a way to solve problems that you can't either buy or make out of wood, that is where this comes in. It is the appeal for me. It is a tool-making tool to make tools for my tools to create solutions to help my woodworking. That's how I see it. I can either print things people have already designed or design things for myself to solve usually small but relatively big annoyances in my tools or in woodworking, or things to make it easier for me. This is a relatively cheap base level Bambu A1. Love it, great. I print out here in my wood shop, which has its own problems and scenarios, and I'll touch on that a bit. But this video is not about a specific printer. It's about making the pitch for why, if you've already got a shop you're pretty happy with, but you're looking to kind of expand or problem solve, you should consider a 3D printer for your shop. Now, just for reference, even though this is a relatively basic printer, it's still a relatively nice one. Price-wise here, just for getting into this world, if you're going with something like this, you're looking at about $300. Plus, if you're going to be doing any sort of outside shed printing, some kind of filament dryer, $60, $40, something like that. And then anywhere from $10 to $20 for a kilogram of filament, which goes quite a ways in my opinion. So you are looking at an upfront cost, but over time, there's really just a maintenance cost of buying the filament, which is relatively cheap. And I will show you how I've probably already paid that off in terms of getting things that I otherwise would have had to buy or just simply weren't available on the market that I was able to print myself or design and print myself. So for me, this is an investment piece for things that you either can't buy to fix a problem or simply no one makes it to fix a problem. I'm not going to dive extremely deep here into every single thing you can print. I will have some future videos, or perhaps depending upon when you're watching this, they will be out with some of the best prints I've already found made, as well as how I design my own. But I want to show a few here, a few categories of things that I found very useful to give you an idea of why you may want to get into this. And if none of those appeal to you, then this is probably not for you, and there's no need to spend any money on this. Perhaps get some nice saw blades that you've been waiting to replace for a while, or some new router bits, something like that. There's always something we can upgrade in our shop or replace a consumable. But if any of these appeal to you, this is certainly something you may want to add to your list to buy in the future. So let's take a look. One of the most basic things for me is this system that is universal and called Gridfinity, Infinite Grid. It was created by a YouTuber actually, and it is simply these base plates here that have specific dimensions that allow you to either print things already made or design your own that sit into these and are modular. So I can move these around wherever I want. I can make them in whatever size I want, and they are a dream for storage. I've been able to add way more space by doing something like putting this vertically. These are my setup blocks. I can now have them vertical, sitting upright, and it saves so much space. My small screwdriver, vertical. Down here, I've been able, this was all filling up this entire space before. I've now got all of it in with extra room to spare. If you are a storage junkie and you really like organization, this one is going to be for you. The Gridfinity, relatively cheap and easy in terms of filament, a million pre-designed things that you can print out if you don't want to design your own. Highly recommended. I've slowly begun to convert all of my drawers into Gridfinity based. I've got a bunch of commonly used driver bits, my basic Amazon screwdriver, an extra ruler, my little block plane, marking gauge, marking knife, some stuff like that inside of that one. I've gone down here. I'm slowly making stuff from my sharpening supplies. Again, this was all filling up all of this, just stacked in here, and now I've got extra room. When we go down to the bottom, I've created a lot of room. I've got so much extra instead because this was originally in a wooden box case. And I still love to make wooden box cases, but when I need extra room, this is great. This is my dial indicator, which was previously in a box that took up about half of this, and then my router plane, and I've still got all of this room inside of here. Another big one for me was wall mount tool holders that were lower profile. Anytime I make something out of wood, there's always a thickness to it that sticks out more. Just brought it out more I lost space. Now, some of these tools, like this little saddle square, it can't help it. It's going to have space. But I was able to make all of my squares, the screwdriver, all of this further set back against the wall. These are all technically designed by me and 3D printed, but there are plenty of things to pre-print if you are not into the design. But of course, I don't want everything to be made of plastic, so we're keeping some of the stuff here out of wood. Incredibly good at space saving. I was able to print something to hold my featherboards really nicely. I designed my own risers for the featherboards for the Craig so I could double stack them even higher. I'm a bit of a T-track style knob junkie, those quarter 20 T-bolts, and I am all about different knobs. I wanted to attach this warped but still usable fence from the spline jig onto my drill press to have a little bit higher height here, but I needed a bunch of weird size knobs to be able to fit inside of this area. These are all using T-bolts which slide into this fence, and I had to make them different heights and different sizes so that I could fit everything around here. We've got extremely tiny ones, extremely long ones, all of it designed to be able to allow me to have the best grip and reach. I created a little stealth stop and knob for this drill press fence so that I could very quickly have a stop alongside of there that was low. It didn't take up bulk. What if I had something that was going kind of up and over and I couldn't use a whole stop? It works out really well. For as much as I love this little Rikon benchtop bandsaw, one of my biggest problems with it had always been poor dust collection between the entrance of the sawdust and the bearings. It had to make it through somehow through the bearings down below, but it would often get caught on the bearings. It was just a problem. It was a design problem. Most full-size bandsaws, at least decent ones, have a second dust port up here as well as in the back. I wanted to add one. I've wanted to add one for years. Nobody sold one. Rikon was never going to sell one. They were never going to make one. I noticed that the new Laguna benchtop had its own separate dust port, and I said, you know what? It's time to figure that out. So when I got the 3D printer, that was one of the things top on my list. Now I had to teach myself some basic CAD design, which is not as hard as you think. And there will be a future video, a little bit about how to make a lot of things for yourself using basic CAD design. I use Onshape. And then I just started expanding by closing the amount of space in here to funnel air inside of the port below, as well as creating mine on top. There simply is no other way that I could do this. I'm not skilled enough to do this out of wood. I just don't know how. I don't have the skill for that. I'm sure somebody could. Rikon was never going to sell one. Nobody else was ever going to sell one because it's relatively niche. So I designed my own, printed it out, and it works extremely well. I'm only on version 2 or 3. There's probably going to be another 2 or 3 more of these versions in order to truly seal it up as best as possible. But this has been one of the biggest improvements to a machine I've ever been able to make, other than, say, getting a really nice saw blade to replace the cheap crap you want on a table saw, something like that where you notice the improvement significantly. This is that, and this was only possible with the 3D printer and a little bit of CAD design learning over a couple weeks. I've begun reducing the airflow in here using a simple dovetail sliding system to add 3 different pieces in here. Speaking of the bandsaw, another thing I made, a gajillion different little inserts for the bandsaw. Extremely helpful. I came up with one that was specifically for resawing. I put a bunch of holes in it so that even more dust could get below. Sometimes I want something closer to a 0 clearance. Other times I want all that dust going as far down as quickly as possible. While we're on the topic of dust collection, I'm really big into trying to optimize the efficiency of my dust collection. That means elbows and bends wherever I can so that I can get the hose in easier. Are these the optimal angles? Probably not. I'm not a physicist. I don't know thermodynamics and airflow, but what it allowed me to do was make it much easier to connect. These tubes, these hose ports, elbow bends, whatever you want to call them, I designed them all in CAD, printed them out. They print out pretty well. It's not the best use of a 3D printer, but they're solid, they work, they fit my hoses specifically, and it allows me to get my hose around and up and in certain areas so I don't have to run a really long secondary hose. I can put my 4-inch port, 4-inch to 2 1/4, right up into this thing. I couldn't do that before with how the spaces were here. And then when it came to the splitting the bandsaw, I didn't want a Y split that went out to the side. They're both going to the same spot. So I designed and printed out my own Y split where they come out the same direction so that the 2 hoses could run right next to each other. Again, not something I could personally make out of wood. I'm sure somebody could. Not something that I could find anyone selling. I had to go and make these. Nobody sold a dust elbow that was this dimension out, this dimension down, and fit into my specific hoses. 3D printers solved that problem instantly. And for the relative cost here, we're talking about less than $1, maybe $1.50 depending upon the filament you use for each of these things. This is maybe $2. It's extremely cheap. And once you get the hang of it and you fine tune the settings, which is its own kind of, process, you are able to whip these things out relatively quickly, overnight, let's say. Now, as woodworkers, one of our biggest problems has always been space. We have a finite amount of space and we always want bigger and bigger machines. And I will say, this does require a little bit of space. If you were to get that same printer I have, in general, I have it fitting into a 24 by 24 by 24-ish space. You will need that kind of space plus a little bit of spare room for perhaps a dryer and some other stuff. You don't have to have all of your other stuff right next to the printer, but you do have to sacrifice some space. So before you rush out and buy one of these, make sure that this is actually going to be useful for you, because that same footprint could be used for anything from a benchtop bandsaw if you've got a little more vertical height, to a small benchtop sander or grinder, something like that, that may be far more impactful to your actual woodworking. Again, this is a tool that prints tools to help improve your tools and your woodworking. It is not a woodworking machine specifically. So if you are focused currently on buying tools to improve just your woodworking, this is probably not the time. Use that space for a more woodworking purpose tool, and only later consider whether you want to upgrade to something like a 3D printer. Now, if you are like me and work in a non-climate controlled shop, there are some challenges. This filament dryer will be a must. So you're adding another $40 or so onto the cost of the printer and the filament. You will not get good prints if you are printing outdoors. It is currently 98% humidity here in Ohio. You need this. This filament will absorb water. So make sure if you are in a shed, I'll call it a shed, like mine, and you do buy one of these, that you also buy a filament dryer with it, or you will have an absolute nightmare. I just want to give that heads up now because I ran into that problem because I had no idea. My little brother prints indoors in a climate controlled house and didn't have any problems. I had problems. Solved all my problems. So make sure you do your research ahead of time, and of course, feel free to ask me any questions below. And I haven't been doing this for super long, but I've been doing it long enough to at least give you a bit of advice as to how I solved some of the early problems. To wrap this up, I just want to touch on the last thing, and that's going to be the filament I've had success with in here. Now, in terms of brand, I haven't used many. I've used one called Creality and one called Polymaker. Had really good success with them. Now, in terms of types, there are well over 100 different types of filament. Part of that is going to be determined by what your printer can do, the temperatures, whether it's enclosed, your environment in general. For most basic things like Gridfinity storage, wall mounting storage, the most common filament is called PLA. It's not extremely strong, but it's perfectly good at its rigidity and holding things. If it's not going to have a lot of force applied to it, it's relatively cheap. Go with PLA. PLA Plus is a little bit of a step up there if you want a little more strength. You don't need much more than that for things like storage. When you start getting into things that are going to have forces applied, our next level up is going to be PETG. One of my favorites, still relatively cheap, very easy to find and access. I've used the Creality brand, it's perfectly fine. This one though does require a dryer if you are going to be outside in the shop or live anywhere relatively humid. It's a bit of a different beast, but it's still a pretty easy filament to print. So for me, if you're a woodworker, those are going to be the two to start out with. PLA or PLA Plus in that realm, and then PETG. Beyond that, there's a million different ones. You can get versions of those two that have different things like carbon fiber in them to make them even tougher. But I will note that when you're coming to buy a printer, you have certain limitations if you go with an open top. There are certain very, very strong filaments out there that do require an enclosure, both for the temperature needed as well as the toxic fumes that they put out. As far as the research I've seen suggest in my experience so far, things like PLA, PETG seem to be relatively safe to be in the room with. Now, I wouldn't go standing right next to it and start huffing it for fun, but so far, the research suggests those are okay. So if you're thinking about doing it in your shop and you want to be working in your shop while it's printing, because that's one of the upsides, press a button, forget about it, come back later. Consider those two filaments and if those will meet your needs. And at the end of the day, as I've said before, if you have other foundational woodworking tools that you don't have yet, this is probably not a thing you should buy yet. It's a luxury. It's a nice little add-on. It is not a foundational woodworking tool. So don't take this video as saying you need one of these. Nice to have, don't need it. If you have everything else, you have most of what you need, and you're thinking about something a little different, consider a 3D printer. All right, thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, let me know, and there will be a few future videos on different prints and different things I've designed, but I don't want to do too much 3D printing stuff as this is a woodworking channel after all. Bye, thanks for joining me.